Is God identical to his nature? Let's consider. Hello, philosophers. I'm Chico. Welcome to the Philosopher Channel summary of the Summa Theologica. Today, we are looking at Part 1, Question 3, God's Simplicity, Article 3, whether God is identical to his nature or essence. Now, we have an essence or nature, and that is humanity. You and I both have humanity. It's what makes us human rather than a dog or a cat. But we are not identical to humanity, right? I am not humanity itself. The question before us is God so radically simple that he is identical to his essence or nature? It would be like saying, is God identical to divinity? Now, interestingly enough, Aquinas' position is that yes, he is. He is so radically simple that he's identical to his essence. And in arguing for it, he quotes John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now, notice in that quote, it doesn't say, I have life. It says, I am the life, right? I am life itself. So God is life itself and not only a living thing. But the relation between Godhead and God is the same as the relation between life and a living thing. So God is his very Godhead. So in the same way that God doesn't have a life, he is life. God doesn't have a Godhead. He is the Godhead, right? He is his own Godhead. He's identical to the Godhead. Now, his argument at first, I think it's going to be a little bit confusing just because he presents, like at the first half of it, is a general argument with a lot of particular examples, and the particular examples almost make an additional argument themselves. So I'm going to present them side by side, and that hopefully will clear things up. Premise 1, in things composed of matter and form, and if you don't know what matter and form are, check out that video that I have on hylomorphism. You got to know that distinction. The essence or nature connotes only what is included in the definition of the species. So matter-form composites, when we're talking about the essence or nature, we're only talking about the stuff, just the stuff that is included in the definition. And here is his particular example. It is by humanity that man is man, right? Humanity is meaning the essence or nature of the thing, and man being the species, right? So it is by the essence or nature that the species is the kind of species that it is. 2, humanity signifies that whereby man is man. In other words, rather than man being a dog or a cat, it's what makes man into a man. 3, so humanity connotes all that is included in the definition of man. Okay, back to the general argument. 2, the principles whereby a thing is defined are regarded as the formal constituent in regard to the individualizing matter. So, what does that mean? Whatever it is that you define a thing as, that is the formal part of the thing. That's what the first part is saying. And this isn't including the matter. The matter, remember, makes it be this specific thing. The form makes it be the kind of a thing that it is. So you have the form of man makes it be makes the thing be a man versus a cat or a dog, but the matter makes it be this specific person, this specific man versus that specific man or the other specific man. So the idea here is that the principles that you use to define a thing, that's all having to do with the formal aspect, the making you be the kind of a thing that you are, rather than the material aspect, the thing that makes you be this specific thing. When we're talking about matter-form composites, remember, very important, we're just talking about matter-form composites at the moment. Back to the particular examples, humanity is taken to mean the formal part of a man. So humanity, remember, is again the essence or nature that is the formal aspect of a particular man. 3, individual matter with all the individualizing accidents is not included in the definition of the species. So, when we're thinking about, actually, let's just look at his particular examples because that's going to clear it up. This particular flesh, these bones, this blackness or whiteness or brownness, if you will, etc., are not included in the definition of man. So this flesh, these bones, and the accidental qualities distinguishing this particular matter are not included in humanity, right? All the different stuff that makes you up, that stuff is not part of the definition of humanity, right? It's not part of what makes you what you are, the kind of a thing that you are. Your skin color doesn't make you what you are. It's humanity that makes you what you are. So we don't put those kinds of things into the definition of humanity, of man, which is humanity, which is the essence of a thing. Okay, 4, so the nature or essence must be different from the suppositum. Now, the suppositum is sort of the thing that exists. It's like when we're talking about humanity and, this particular flesh and all that kind of stuff. The suppositum is me, right? It's all that stuff all thrown together, and here I am happily existing, like all together as a whole. That's the suppositum. What this is saying is then, if we have nature and we also have matter that is not part of the nature in the suppositum, then the suppositum has got to have more than just the essence. Suppositum can't be identical to the essence. So in matter-form composites, it can't be the case that the essence is identical to the suppositum. And remember, the whole thing we're aiming at here is wondering whether in God, the essence of God is identical to the suppositum God. Like are those two identical? Right now, we're talking about just matter-form composites. Is that the case in matter-form composites? And we're seeing the answer is no, they can't be identical. Let's look at his particular arguments, or his particular instances, and I'm going to review all of them, and we're going to see how they kind of make their own little argument here. So back to the beginning, it is by humanity that man is man, and humanity signifies that whereby man is man. So humanity connotes all that is included in the definition of man. Okay, so humanity, the essence, is the definition. 4, humanity is taken to mean the formal part of man, of a man. This particular flesh, these bones, this blackness or whiteness, etc., are not included in the definition of a man. So this flesh, these bones, and the accidental qualities distinguishing this particular matter are not included in humanity. Yet they are, so here's the new parts. Yet they are included in the thing which is man. So the thing which is a man has something more in it than has humanity, right? I have something more than just humanity. I have matter. I have this particular flesh. So humanity and a man are not wholly identical. And that's his argument. And what's funny is we just went through this confusing thing, and really, like, that's not even his argument. Like, that's just to say, yeah, okay, for matter and form composites, it can't be the case. Okay, it can't be the case for these guys that essence and the suppositum are identical. But now we're going to look at some things for which it is the case that their essence and the suppositum can be identical. And that is in premise 5. In things not composed of matter and form, individualization cannot be due to individual matter. So in matter-form composites, remember, it's the matter's job to make it this particular thing. When you have things that are just purely forms that are not matter-form composites, then there is no matter to make it this particular thing. So they are individuated we saw, actually, we talked about this in the last video. So go back and check the last video if you want to understand a little bit more about how this works. So in things not composed of matter and form, individualization is due to the very forms being individualized of themselves. So that's how it works. 7, so it is necessary the forms themselves should be subsisting supposita. Therefore, suppositum and nature in them are identified. So in things that are purely forms, suppositum and nature are the same thing. God is not composed of matter and form, so he must be his own Godhead, his own life, and whatever else is thus predicated of him. So God is one of these things that is not a matter-form composite. So he is his nature. He is identical to his nature. Okay, let's look at some objections. Objection 1, nothing can be in itself. And by this we mean nothing can be inside of itself, which, it would be weird to say, here I am inside of me. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. 2, the substance or nature of God, in other words, the Godhead, is said to be in God. And by this, he means that we literally use the words that the Godhead is in God, right? That's the way we talk, is what he's saying. 3, so God is not the same as his essence or nature. So we talk like this. We say the divine nature is in God. But if God is identical to the divine nature, then that would be saying that God is in God, which doesn't make any sense. So it can't be the case that God is identical to the divine nature. That's the argument here. His reply to this is to say that we're using language differently. We're using language in an imperfect way when we talk about God, in so far as God is a simple being and all we know is composite stuff. So he says, we can speak of simple things only as though they were like the composite things from which we derive our knowledge. For Aquinas, as for his not mentor, but the guy that he follows, Aristotle, all knowledge comes from sense experience first, right? We start off by looking around at the world, and that's where we get all of our the beginnings of our knowledge, and from there we abstract and we deduce and we get more knowledge from than just the stuff that we see. But that's where it all starts from. But if that's the case, we have all this vocabulary that we get from the stuff that we see around us, and all the stuff that we see around us is all composite stuff. It's all matter form composites. So we're trying to apply that vocabulary to God. It's not going to fit perfectly. That's the idea. 2, with us, only those things subsist which are composite. Subsist means that exist by themselves, exist on their own. 3, and we use abstract nouns to signify God's simplicity. So, 4, in speaking of God, we use concrete nouns to signify his subsistence. So, in other words, when we're talking about subsistence, we always are talking about compound things. So when we talked about God, we're using compound type language to talk about his subsistence. But we got to know that we're using this in an analogical way, in a similar way, right? This language is similar insofar as God subsists, but it's dissimilar insofar as God is not complex like the things of our experience. 5, so in saying that Godhead, life, etc. are in God, we indicate the composite way in which our intellect understands, but not that there is any composition in God. So there you go. Objection 2. Every agent produces its like. Now this is something that we will have to talk about at a different time, because right now this is an objection being leveled at Aquinas. it's not something that like it's something he actually agrees with. So it's something that he's going to, have to deal with. But if you're like, no, not every agent has to produce something that's exactly like it. Well, okay, great for him, right? Because then this objection fails. But just note that this is not like he's not stupid, right? So it seems like obviously false, but there's a reason why he holds what he holds. So every agent produces its like. So the effect is assimilated to its cause. So the effect is going to be like its cause. 3, in created things, the suppositum is not identical with its nature, right? A man is not the same as his humanity. 4, so God is not the same as his Godhead. If the effect is going to be like the cause, and the effect of the created being, man, is not identical to his nature, then he must be like the cause, God, and so God must also not be identical to his nature. That's the argument. And his reply here is that the effects of God do not imitate him perfectly, but only as far as they are able. So this is something I think probably important to take note of, which is that you won't be able to imitate God. So since God is a unique being, like he is being itself. We're going to see in the next video, actually, which is stick around for the next video. This is going to be an important one. Since God's essence is his own as existence, he is unique in that he can be the only thing like that. So nothing else is going to be able to imitate him perfectly, but they will be able to imitate him imperfectly. So there are all these different ways that things are going to be able to imitate God in an imperfect fashion, in a non-complete fashion. Not meaning imperfect like, oh, you blew it, but meaning like in a not totally like him fashion. So 2, imitation is here defective precisely because what is simple in one can only be represented by diverse things. Again, God, whose essence is identical to his existence, that kind of radical simplicity is unmatched, can't be copied in the created universe. So everything else is going to have some kind of metaphysical complexity. The stuff that we're talking about, matter-form composites here, are going to have even more complexity because they're going to be a composition of matter and form. So in them, suppositum is not the same as nature. Right? So sure, in them, it's not the same thing to be the suppositum and to be the nature, but composition is accidental to them. It's not like their composition is what they are, right? Composition is just something that has to be part of them because they can't totally copy a radically simple being like God. There's no copying God. That's the response here. Well, let me know if you have any questions on this, and please don't forget to support this project at my Patreon page, link in the description. Also, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment. I'm just throwing all kinds of things for you to do, and I will see you in the next video. We'll talk about the essence, existence, distinction. Definitely want to check that one out. That's huge. So I'll see you in that video. Adios.